Well, this morning was a first for me in Kansas City. Almost 8 years I made it. But I got my first ticket almost 8 years in Kansas City. Oh, man. I was texting the guys. I said, fellas, I'm running late. I should be there by 6, but I'm in the process of getting my first ticket here in Kansas City.
Did you not tell him I'm Pete Mundo?
I don't do that, Mark.
Who do you think you are? I am.
I don't do that, Mark. I don't do that. I take my lumps. I sit there like a man, and I say, yes, officer, no, officer, yes, sir, no, sir. Thanks for what you do, sir. And I go on my merry way. And that's what I did. That's what I did. Oh, man. I wasn't even that far from my house, and somehow I was going 59 and a 40. But here's the catch. First off, I was running a couple minutes late this morning. You know, you get out of the house, you look at the clock, and you're like, all right, I'm 2 minutes behind where I normally am when I'm leaving. And I guess I just, had a little bit of a lead foot this morning. I don't know. I was surprised when he told me, to be totally honest, because I wasn't all that far from the house. I just pulled onto one of those major thoroughfares in Johnson County, and I was like, really? 50? Okay, all right. I mean, but the one thing I did say, and, he goes through the whole process, my insurance card in my glove compartment was expired last month, so I had to go pull it up on my phone, my new one, so I did that. That was no problem. But he goes, yeah, you were going 59 and a 40, and I wasn't trying to be a wise guy, but he brings me the ticket, and I said, hey, officer, I'm pretty sure that's a 45 back there. Like, I'm not saying that you shouldn't give me a ticket. I'm just saying I'm pretty sure that's 45. And he respected how I was handling the situation, so he goes, I'm going to go back on Google Earth. I'm going to check it. And he gets back, and he brings me another ticket, and he goes, I think you're right. It was right on the border. It goes from 40 to 45 somewhere in there, so I'm going to say 59 and a 45. I'm like, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Such a nice man.
So it's officially a 59 and a 45 that I got hit with this morning. And the officer was very pleasant. He was a gentleman. He was a nice guy. And I think by the end of it, he was feeling bad for me because I was being such a nice guy to him. I was like, officer, thanks for what you do. I appreciate it. I know it's ultimately on me. I screwed up. It's my fault, blah, blah, blah. And I think by the end, he was like, oh, man, I actually feel bad for this guy. I really do. I was like, well, you can still take it back. No, I didn't say that. I did not say that. But I will tell you this, something that annoys me as I was looking through this ticket. Listen, I deserved it. Took my lumps. He was a gentleman. I thought I handled it just fine. But here's what annoys me, right? There's a fine on here. And then I look at it and I see the court cost is about 50% of the fine. And, of course, that's your total due. Now, I'm not going to court for this, right? Like, I'm just, listen, it stinks. I'm going to have to pay it, but I'm not going to court. So why is there a court cost if you're not going to court? That's what I'm trying to figure out here.
Yeah, if you're going to try to fight it, I understand that.
Of course. If I'm taking the court's time to fight it, and if I lose, let's say there's a court cost, I'm willing to accept that. But and this is not unique to any municipality. They all do this. It's the court cost thing is a money grab. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
It's a money grab. I'm fine paying the fine. I'm obviously going to just have to suck it up and do the whole thing. But when the court cost is 50%, more than 50% of the actual fine itself, that's where I'm like, come on. This is just, that's ridiculous. The court's got to make a few bucks. The court's not using any resources towards me. I'm paying them. I'm not taking up any time. And I still got to pay the court cost? Really?
It's going to pay the mailroom lady's salary
Well,
as she goes through all the mail.
That's what I mean. I mean, no one's even processing the payment. I'm not going to send them a check, right? It's not like it's even like some guy's got to process my check. There's none of that. So that's the only thing this morning that I was mildly annoyed by. I'm happy to accept that I screwed up. I'm happy to accept that I was maybe rushing this morning and was going a little fast. The officer was a total pro. But, man, when I saw the court cost charge on there, I'm like, really? Jeez, you got to be kidding me with that. That's just unbelievable.
Just don't do what I did right after college and get pulled over by the same cop 2 days in a row.
Well,
That's a tough one.
yeah, I'm going to do my best to not be you, Mark. All right? I'm going to do my best. That's how I roll. Now, speaking of cops, I saw this in Wyandotte County. They are set to vote on a baseball field that could soon carry the name of a fallen Wyandotte County deputy who grew up playing there. The Unified Government's Board of Commissioners is expected to vote today on a resolution to rename Heathwood Park Baseball Field on Parallel Parkway as Elijah Ming Memorial. Deputy Ming, as you may recall, was shot and killed in July while responding to a domestic violence call. The resolution said Ming learned early lessons in teamwork, leadership, and community service on that field, traits he carried into his career in law enforcement. Commissioners will decide the proposed renaming during Thursday's meeting. I mean, it's obviously going to pass, right?
Yep.
No one's going to vote against that. I mean, could you imagine being the Board of Commissioner with the Unified Government who's like, no, it must be named Heathwood Park Baseball Field. No, you give it to Elijah Ming. You do the right thing. You make sure that the guy has a legacy beyond, let's be honest, family and friends, because sadly, over time, people don't remember the names of law enforcement who die in the line of duty. And we should. And if there's a baseball field off Parallel Parkway that can be named after Deputy Ming, I'm 100% all in, John.
Man, they put forth a great effort. And just to top all of you got pulled over stories, do you remember the time I got pulled over twice on the way to the station?
Yes, that's right. Yes.
I had a light out in my car, so I got nabbed going up north on Metcalf when the station was up on Shawnee Mission Parkway there.
Yes.
About 97th or so, I think. So I get the ticket right, and I'm going up a few more lights. Boom, get tagged again.
Yes.
The officer comes, I roll down my window, and I just hold out my previous ticket so that he can see it. And you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
On you go. So they're out there working hard.
I forgot about that. Listen, we love our men and women in blue, all right? No one backs the blue like we do, so I'm not giving anyone a hard time around here at all. I am just simply saying it was the first time I was nabbed in almost 8 years. I don't think I've had a ticket in 10 years? Certainly not in Kansas or Missouri. I'd been pulled over one time coming back from the airport, must have been about 3 years ago on 435. And it was a state trooper. He pulled me over. I might have been going 10 over. Maybe it was 12, something like that. And he was a listener. And he said, good show, get home safe, and that was the end of that. I'm not saying that's what should have happened. I never do any dropping of anything like that. As Mark alluded to earlier, I would never do such a thing. That's not how I roll. No way, no how. Didn't do it this morning. Took my lumps, got my ticket, and just texted John and Mark saying, fellas, I should be there by the first segment, but this is taking a little long, so you guys may have to co-host the show for a few minutes while I get this all squared away. But luckily, got it all taken care of. So we appreciate our men and women in law enforcement here on KCMO Talk Radio. Never giving them a hard time, but I will give a hard time over these court costs. That still drives me nuts. You got to be kidding me. That right there, I'll pay a fine. I'll respect the fact that I was going too fast, but come on, the court costs 50% of the ticket. Are you kidding me? That's ridiculous. With where these taxes are around here these days, that's absurd. 913-408-7957, the text line and the studio line on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. And we are always streaming on our KCMO Talk Radio app. This on the text line, Pete, traffic court nowadays done by Zoom a lot of the time. Even less reason for court costs. Well, at least then, that's from Randy in Prairie Village. At least then you're still taking up somebody's time, which I know has a cost associated with it. But I did see that there is a Zoom option here for my court date in January, which I don't think I'll be going to. I just think I'll take care of this thing and move on. That's my plan, at least. Coming up on KCMO Talk Radio, let's get to the most surprising but also important story I saw on a major American newspaper's website last night. Next on KCMO.
from the nation's heartland. You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
I'm sitting in bed last night. I needed to get to sleep early. Monday night, we had the big event up in St. Joe with the Missouri GOP. And then Tuesday night, I just got caught up prepping for the show and a couple other things, and I didn't get a lot of sleep on Tuesday. So last night, I'm prepped early. I'm getting ready. I'm finally kind of settling in. And I'm doing some last-minute news checking on the big major national newspaper websites. And the lead story on the Wall Street Journal's homepage, which is still there today, right now at 6:20 in the morning, is an incredible must-read piece. And the headline is, millions of kids are on ADHD pills. For many, it's the start of a drug cascade. Right here, powerful psychotropic drugs are often the next step, even though their combined effects in young children have not been studied closely. And it goes on to talk about various kids who are now adults and how many of the drugs they were on as children, they believe, backfired as they moved into adulthood. And it actually changed their personality for the worse. Here's part of how this story starts, and I'll get to some of the main points here because I think this is such an incredibly important piece. As somebody with little kids, some may call, the kids, or at least one of them, a little hyperactive. We have not gone down this road. I know how difficult it can be for parents. I'm in no way judging anybody who has gone down this road. I'm just saying I'm glad this conversation is being had and people are actually talking about this stuff. It's not to judge. It's not to say right versus wrong. It's not to say this is a black and white conversation. But like all of medicine, having the conversation matters. It's like COVID. There's no settled science. Science is always evolving. Medicine's always evolving, right? So the story goes on the note, and I know that there are many parents around Kansas City like this as well, starting with this girl, Danielle, who was 7 years old when an administrator at her upscale private girls' school in suburban Philadelphia flagged problems with her academic performance. She was a bubbly, creative kid, but she was easily distracted in class, and her schoolwork was sloppy. The school told her mother that the girl should see a psychiatrist who diagnosed her with ADHD and prescribed a stimulant. Concerned that Danielle might get kicked out if her focus did not improve, her mother broke into tears and agreed. But the pills made the child agitated, moody, and angry. So another doctor put her on Prozac. More pills followed. Over the years, Danielle was always on 2, sometimes 3 or more psychiatric drugs at once. By her late 20s, she had taken 14 different kinds of psychiatric pills. The story goes on to note that about 7 million American children between the ages of 3 to 17 have an ADHD diagnosis. About half of those took ADHD medication, and prescriptions continue to grow. And the fact that you have some of this happening in preschools, that is just beyond disturbing to me. That we are prescribing 3, 4, and 5-year-olds this kind of medication when the point of being 3, 4, and 5 is, one, you can't communicate. You literally cannot express your emotions. You're not really, in many cases, supposed to be in a room in a building with, let's be honest, random people for several hours a day, multiple days a week. Now, our kids do preschool 2, sometimes 3 days a week as they get to 4. They do preschool for a few hours a day. But if the kid's acting crazy in preschool, they're 3, 4, and 5 years old. I mean, they're just kind of learning how to be little kids. So the article here in the Wall Street Journal, it's a great piece, and I'll share it on social media. They write here, the decision to treat ADHD with medication is often made by desperate parents trying to keep their kids from falling behind or being kicked out of school or daycare. For preschool-age kids, the drugs are often dispensed against pediatric guidelines, which calls first for behavioral therapy, a treatment that can be hard to get. And mental health providers say that drugs are frequently prescribed to treat childhood trauma that has been misdiagnosed as ADHD. For 1 in 5 kids who take them, ADHD drugs are just the beginning. A Wall Street Journal analysis of data between 2019 and 2023 shows that children who were prescribed a medication for ADHD were far more likely to take additional psychiatric drugs over the ensuing 4 years. And here's the part that really drives me nuts. They write here, all too often, under pressure from preschools and elementary schools, many parents seek help from pediatricians or psychiatric nurse practitioners who frequently lack in-depth training in pediatric mental health, rather than wait months or even years for appointments with behavioral specialists or child psychiatrists. When you're talking about preschoolers, when you're talking about kids who are 3 and 4 and 5 years old, the answer is not how quickly can we get them on Prozac? How quickly can we get them on, fill in the blank Ritalin drug or whatever it might be at 3, 4, or 5 years old? That's not the answer here for little kids.
Oh, I was going to mention, that goes back to 1968 even. When I was 8, they said, hey, he needs Ritalin. So I took it for a little while. It's not like I really remember much of it, but my mom was not liking it, right? I needed glasses. I was nearsighted, so I was always effing around in class, You set alphabetically. Mm-hmm. So, with my last name, I was actually at the back of the class with my legal name. So I can't see the board, and I don't care, and I'm drawing. I got the crayons out and stuff, and they're like, this guy, he's off the reservation.
So how long were you on it for?
I don't remember. It wasn't the whole year, though.
So
I think after a while, a few weeks, my mom's like, I think it's making him worse, I take Ritalin at home.
So in 1968, John Anthony, under a different name, his legal name, is on Ritalin.
Starts with a V. I'll throw it out there. Got a few people that know.
Yeah, so you're sitting there in the back of the class, jerking around, and they suggest you go on Ritalin. And after whatever it was, a few weeks, couple of months, your mom's like, nah, we're not doing this.
Right.
Good for her.
Well, whatever it was, see, didn't manifest itself at home, right? Because I wasn't paying attention to the board and things. I didn't necessarily have to pay attention to anything at home. You just roam the range, right?
Well, that's my point here.
Yeah.
The whole
Plus,
system.
boys are different from girls. We'll go from there, too.
Boys are different from girls, to your point. And the school system that we have created over the last 100-plus years is not for everybody, okay? John will be the first one to tell you that when it comes to academics, you could take it or leave it. Right, John? You did what you had to do, and then you moved on.
Yeah, I always did to get by, and they're like, you could work a little harder. I always heard that. Whatever I liked, I worked harder at it.
Well, creativity was more of your space, obviously, and that's why you spent 4 decades with a great radio career. You were not the guy that was going to be working your tail off in the classroom, and that's
jeans. There's no math.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? Because that's how you were made. And the notion that, wow, we have a 3, 4, 5-year-old who can't sit still in a classroom for multiple hours a day. We better drug them up. Man, if we are getting away from that, if we are doing more research on that, we are trending in the right direction as a culture. I know we talk a lot about the bad things going on. This issue is a step in the right direction. Coming up, Thanksgiving costs are coming down. Is that because of Trump, or what's the reason for it next?
From Overland Park to Parkville, you're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
Well, listen, there's no doubt things are too expensive, right? We've talked a lot about it. It's been a hot topic over the last week and a half, but there is some good news when it comes to America's energy prices over the last 4 years. From 2021 through 2024, the average cost for gasoline in November was $3.47 per gallon compared to $2.68 during each November under President Trump. Daniel Turner is here, the founder and the executive director of Power the Future, joining us on KCMO Talk Radio. Daniel, good morning. It's great to have you here. I want to get to some issues happening specifically in Kansas, but on a broad picture scale with this gas price conversation right now, what's exciting you most about where we're at today and where we're hopefully trending come 2026?
Well, I think what's trending is what has me optimistic about the future. And I agree with your intro. Things are too expensive, but you have to understand how our economy works. So I tell folks, and a lot of your listeners know this because they understand the ag world in your area, raising cattle, raising sheep, like I do. The meat that we're eating today it wasn't born in the last couple of weeks, right? The average steer that we find at the grocery store is around 3.5 to 4 years old. That means it was fattened on food, on grain that was processed when diesel was $7.50 a gallon under Joe Biden. So, yeah, it trickles down to the economy. People say, look at the price of eggs. Well, eggs didn't become expensive overnight. It became expensive over years and years of high energy prices. So now that energy prices are low, it will start to trickle back, but it's going to take some time. My frustration with this whole conversation is that the Democrats never have to own this, right? They get to mess up what is working. We're going to shut down a pipeline. We're not going to allow any more drilling. But then the consequences are felt 3-4 years in the future, and then it's someone else's fault.
That's an excellent point. So how quickly can these prices be reversed, even though we are seeing a downward trend right now? But what do you look at in 2026 and say, is there a timeline that you think we should really start to see some of these prices with gasoline, which hopefully leads to the price of everything because everything gets to where it's going through gasoline? Is there a timeline that you've got in your eyes, and I'm not going to hold you to it, but that you think we should start to see some relief on this front?
There is, and I'm just going to go back to the first Trump administration. The guy was inaugurated January of 17, and we started to feel it by the end of 18, which means it was almost a solid 2 years. The very similar situation can be said about Ronald Reagan when he was inaugurated. His first year or year and a half, people were criticizing him, saying everything is expensive. Inflation hasn't come down. Well, you promised us you were going to make life busy, make life better, and they blasted Reagan for it. But eventually it kicked in. So I think you got to give the guy another solid half-year minimum to feel the effects. But again, this is the problem with our politicians. When they tinker in little things outside of their area of expertise, the consequences sometimes take years to kick in, and then they get to conveniently blame somebody else for their own stupidity.
And what exactly has been if you were to say, hey, the top couple of wins for this president on energy in particular over these first 9-10 months in office, what do you point to?
Regulatory environments that have settled. And it's that simple, right? President Trump is brilliant at a lot of things, but he doesn't have a national energy policy that people said, oh my gosh, we've never thought of this. His national energy policy, which is quite humble actually, is you guys know what you're doing, go ahead and do it. And when you give the environment that sense of certainty, we're going to have permitting, we're going to have auction of lands, we're going to have access to the Gulf, to the outer continental shelf, to Alaska, markets calm down. It's not like in the last couple of months we've discovered some new oil field. What's happened is that Donald Trump has told oil and gas producers, hey, you guys know what you're doing, why don't you go ahead and do it? And on that same note, remember it wasn't long ago that Democrats were hauling before them in the Senate all of the CEOs of oil companies, blasting them for being greedy and profiteering and selfish. Price gouging, Pete. Remember that? Mm-hmm. You guys are price gouging. Where the hell is that conversation gone? How come all the greedy oil companies they stopped being greedy when Donald Trump became president? Or is it just because there's now certainty in the markets and prices have calmed down? That is the joy of free market capitalism. When there's certainty in the markets, there's a lot of stability in pricing.
Daniel Turner is with Power the Future, joining us on KCMO Talk Radio. Always great to have him on, the founder and executive director of Power the Future. So I want to ask you about this, Daniel. There was the story that broke here this week in the Kansas City area, headlined, Atmos Energy requests approval for 11.2% per month increase in utility bills. So they have filed with the Kansas Corporation Commission, and they want to raise revenue by $19 million to, in their words, recover costs already incurred by the company to support continued safe, reliable service for our customers. I'm sure you see stories like this all over the country, but what's going on and what's your reaction to it?
So when I looked into this, and of course I looked at your regional area, there is no statewide net zero mandate or we will be carbon neutral by 2050 mandate. But what there are a whole bunch of regional mandates in Kansas City and in other areas that have adopted them. And when you have laws passed by your city council, passed by your blue mayors that say by year X, we are going to be 50% carbon neutral or 100% carbon neutral, they kind of put the burden on the utility and say, hey, this is what you guys have to do now. Figure it out. Well, the utility company, they're going to get all the blame. And I think that's a load of bunk. They are complying with rules that were passed by city councils, by county commissions, by mayors. How are they supposed to produce electricity if they have to use wind and solar that don't exist? They have to buy it from local municipalities, right? They have to buy it from neighboring states. And the neighboring states to say to the Kansas City area, yeah, we'll sell you green energy, but it's going to cost you a small fortune, right? It's like looking at my wonderful New York Giants and saying, how come you guys, the coaches, don't do a better job? Well, this is the crappy offensive line we have. What am I supposed to do with them? They stink. I am trying my best with the players you gave me. So your Kansas City utility commissions and your regional utility commissions are trying to play the game with what they're given. It is not the utility's fault, and I'm not here to, I'm not getting paid to be their advocate, but they are getting the blame for the nonsense that is passed by stupid elected officials who run campaigns saying, if you elect me, I promise you that we're going to be net zero by 2050, and all the blue-haired liberals cheer and say, this is great. We're going to solve climate change in Kansas City. You know how you're going to solve it? You are going to solve it by charging people a small fortune. And this happens everywhere. Every single place this is done, Pete. In America, internationally, the UK and Germany are the best examples. Everywhere they do this, this is the result. Extremely, extremely high prices. Who the hell's surprised? Don't blame your utility, blame your elected officials.
Wow. So is there we have obviously red state legislatures. Is there something they can do to override some of these nonsense regulations that may be coming out of local city government or county government?
I hope that I don't know how your particular state works, if they can override county rules. Here where I live in Virginia, they don't have that authority. So I don't know. That's a you guys question for you to figure out. Mm-hmm. But this is what happens when your mayors and your county commissions pass these rules. And and we can apply this same logic to everything else. When you guys, when your county or your mayor passes a rule that says we're going to get rid of cash bail, eventually it catches up to you, and crime is everywhere, and homeless are everywhere. And then what do? Well, we're going to have to raise taxes, right? We're going to have to raise taxes to solve this problem. They created the problem, and I can put online. You know what? I'll do this for you and your listeners, and I will text you the link. We will put online all of the regional decisions that were made that were about net zero, carbon neutral, with real deadlines: 2030, 2050. And then they give the utility this poison pill and say, you guys have to figure it out. Here are the new laws. It's like blaming the police for the bad crime. Well, you guys passed laws that said we can't arrest people for urinating on the street in Kansas City. Now people are urinating everywhere, and you think it's the police's fault? No. You guys passed these damn laws. What else are we supposed to do?
Wow. Okay. Well, hey, I'm going to just 3 counties to keep an eye on: Johnson County, Kansas, Wyandotte County, Kansas, and Jackson County, Missouri. I guarantee you they are the 3 worst offenders in this category. So I'll be curious on that, and we appreciate it. Daniel Turner, Power the Future, is where you find him. Great stuff, Daniel. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Pete. Always a good time.
Absolutely. Excellent job by Daniel Turner with Power the Future. He's based out of the D.C. area, but listen, he's on top of this. I'm also going to have on Mike Thompson, Kansas State Senator, at 8:20 this morning to get his reaction to this story that Atmos Energy is requesting a 9% or 11% hike on your monthly utility bills. They say they have to raise $19 million to recover costs already incurred by the company to support safe, reliable service for their customers. So that is going to be a public hearing taking place on December 2nd. We'll get Mike Thompson's reaction to it coming up later this morning. We also have Mark Alford at 7:20 react to what's going on with the Epstein file release and a letter he sent to President Trump yesterday, basically begging the World Cup to stay in Kansas City. That's a half hour away. Mayor Lucas as well at 7:30. The 6 at 6 is coming up next.
On Thursday's Guy Benson Show, a busy one, Jason Chaffetz, our colleague, will join us, as will Josh Krassauer, coming up at 2 o'clock on 95.7 KCMO.
As we roll till 7 o'clock on KCMO, welcome in. Glad you're here. Let's get right to it.
It's time for the 6 at 6 on KCMO Talk Radio. Number 1.
Well, yesterday, Missouri Congressman Mark Alford sent a letter to President Trump strongly urging him to not move the World Cup from Kansas City. Now, this comes after the president has threatened to move some World Cup matches out of Democrat-run cities if they're basically just not up for the job. Now, Kansas City has not been a city that the president has called out, and in fact, you have Rudy Giuliani's son, Andrew, who is in charge of this FIFA task force the president created. And from what I've heard from people I've talked to, Andrew Giuliani has actually said that Kansas City has been one of the model cities, not thanks to the politicians, but thanks to KC 2026, which is the organization that was set up with a lot of private business folks, Clark Hunt, Cliff Illig, and a lot of other people who are involved in that. There are some politicians on the KC 2026 board, but it's not because of them. Trust me, it's not. It's because of the smart private business folks who are involved with the operation who are going to make sure that this thing runs smoothly for Kansas City. But Mark Alford did send that letter yesterday to President Trump saying that Kansas City has already invested millions to prepare for the games to showcase our nation at its best. Unlike many coastal host cities, Kansas City stands alone as the only host city in the geographic heart of the United States. Removing Kansas City would mean holding an American World Cup without a single match in the Midwest. This would be a loss not only to Missouri, Kansas, and the surrounding region, but also to the spirit of the event itself. Mark Alford will be here at 7:20 in a half hour to talk about this letter that he sent to the President of the United States.
Number 2.
Next up, days after receiving a request to recount ballots by hand from the November general election, the Johnson County Board of Canvassers has certified the original vote totals from a Prairie Village ballot measure. So on November 4th, Prairie Village voters went to the polls to vote on a ballot question that asked residents if they wanted to keep or abandon the city's mayor-council form of government. The yes vote, or the no vote, I should say, won overwhelmingly with 65%. However, the board received a recount request, giving the election office only 5 days to hand count all the votes. Yesterday, the results were finalized, and they confirmed the original totals: 3,100 yes votes, 5,900 no votes, and the recounts came in exactly at that number. I know. You're shocked.
Talk about a bombshell.
So we can put that one to rest for now. Next up in the 6 at 6.
Number 3.
Let's go to Leawood. The Leawood Police Department says one person is in the hospital after being hit by a car on the sidewalk at 133rd Street near High Drive yesterday afternoon. According to Leawood Police, someone was walking on the sidewalk when an elderly driver drove off the road, heading westbound on 133rd Street onto the sidewalk and hit the victim. The victim, who was also heading west, was taken to the hospital following the crash. The Leawood Police Department did not specify as to the severity of their injuries. The driver of the car remained on the scene and showed no signs of impairment. Don't know yet what exactly happened, but there's been a lot of drama in Leawood, obviously, lately with tragedies on the roads. And now this looks like it's just a total freak accident. I don't know if it's some old person who should not have been driving or what was going on here. But either way, you do have one person in the hospital after this crash yesterday afternoon.
Number 4.
Well, Josh Simmons spoke yesterday, but he really didn't say anything on his mysterious 22-day Chiefs absence. Rejoined the team 2 weeks ago, talked to reporters yesterday for the first time, and said, quote, "I kind of want to keep that in-house with all due respect. I know everybody wants to know, but it's something I want to keep private. Obviously, family is the biggest thing that Polynesians lean on. When you get in that, it just makes everything a lot better." So, are we ever going to know what happened with Josh Simmons and why he was gone for Almost a month? I don't think so. I mean, I think the media should keep pressing on it because, I mean, where else have you seen something like this?
Release the files.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's get a parlay on that, Mark. Do we get the full Epstein files and the full Josh Simmons story? Which one comes first? I mean, geez.
No and no.
No and no. I think you're right about that. I think you're spot on there.
Number 5.
Next up, let's go to Overland Park. We've talked a lot about housing costs. Well, Overland Park, to its credit, listen, I've been critical of Overland Park plenty in recent weeks. But they have this new program called the Portfolio Homes Program. And the hope is to bring down costs of housing by building more and smaller homes. The program aims to increase housing supply by simplifying the permitting process. The program will offer homeowners and builders 26 pre-approved designs to choose from. The housing plans are free, the permit fees are waived, and they are hoping that this will help reduce the cost of building these homes to get more entry-level, first-time home buyer type properties around Overland Park. Great. Do that over the apartment monstrosities. This is great. I'm a fan. Good job, Overland Park. But it also makes you wonder, why is the permitting process so complex if you can just randomly waive it to increase supply? I love when these government officials remove or reduce regulations, which basically admits they're nonsense to begin with, and it actually has the intended effect that it's supposed to have, which creates more supply and lower costs. Once again, government unnecessarily getting in the way.
Number 6.
And last up in the 6 at 6, the CMAs were last night. Country Music Awards. Lainey Wilson, the big winner at the 59th Annual CMA Awards. You had a big-time lineup, and you had Lainey Wilson win Entertainer of the Year. Her Whirlwind won Album of the Year. She was also the Female Vocalist of the Year. Male Vocalist of the Year was Cody Johnson. The Vocal Group of the Year, the Red Clay Strays. And then Vocal Duo of the Year, Brooks and Dunn, still hanging tough. New Artist of the Year was Zach Top, and the Single of the Year, Ella Langley and Riley Green's You Look Like You Love Me. There were the winners, some of the winners from last night's CMA Awards. There's your 6 at 6, top 6 stories in the 6 o'clock hour here on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM. We're always streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app. Coming up, we have Mark Alford in not even a half hour, 20 minutes. We'll talk to him about this letter that he wrote to President Trump. And then Mayor Lucas will be here at 7:30, a busy 7 o'clock hour, plus then the Parker McCollum tickets at 8:15 this morning. That's your next chance to win on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio. 7:04 on a Thursday. Glad you're joining us on KCMO Talk Radio. Licking my wounds after an early morning ticket today. So if you think your morning's off to a rough start, well, you could have been pulled over at about 5 a.m. coming to work for going 14 miles over the speed limit. The guy was a gentleman. All right. He was fine. I thanked him for his what he's doing, his service, the whole deal. But I can't say it was a great way to start the day. It wasn't. The one thing I did get out of it is he goes, I think you were going, or he said, I clocked you going 59 and a 40. I said, I'm pretty sure that's a 45 back there. And to his credit, he did go back, look at Google Earth, and I stood corrected. So I got a little bit of relief on that with the fine. But the court costs are what kill me here. It's like, wait, so if I pay this thing online, I still got to pay the court costs? The court's not doing anything for me. And the court costs are like, 50% of the fine. That's ridiculous. But it is what it is. We're going to get through it. It's my first ticket in, I think it's 10 years, certainly since I've been in Kansas City. So I had a good run going, but it came to an end this morning at about 5 a.m. I should have just told him I knew John Anthony. That would have solved all of my problems. I would have been scot-free. Going to work. No one would have bothered me. Oh, you know the great John Anthony. Get on your way, sir.
I've got my own program written down there. Filing indiscretions.
I could have turned him on to Mark's Parlays. Hey, you got to follow this guy. I know a guy. He'll make you some money on the side. But I didn't break out any of those cards. I just, took my lump and went on with my day.
I was surprised the officer's like, hey, I'm looking at the name and realize, hey, you're named after that guy on the radio?
I looked at it and I remembered this guy.
Who do you think you are? I am.
Oh, man.
His name was Pete Weber, I think.
Oh, was it? Yeah.
The bowler.
Yeah. I didn't break that out. I wouldn't do such a thing. I would never do such a thing. But, it happens. I was on a good run, and it came to an end this morning at about 5 o'clock. So hopefully your morning is getting off to a better start than mine is. I'll just say that much as we get it rolling in the 7 o'clock hour. Mark Alford is going to be here in about 15 minutes. 913-408-7957 is how you join us on KCMO Talk Radio. And the other thing, just a bit of advice, make sure that you have your updated insurance card in your vehicle or on your phone. He goes, you got your insurance? I said, yeah, right here in the glove compartment. Whoops, that card expired on October 19th of last month. So then I had to go log into it online, show him on my phone that my insurance was updated because I guess there's some crazy law in Kansas that if I can't prove it, and I understand this, I'd have to go to court. So it is what it is. It happens. But I was able to pull that up on my phone and get it all taken care of.
Pre-phone days, I had the same thing. I just had to go. I had the ticket until I showed that I did have it when I went into the court. And I took it off.
Yeah, these kids get in the way of remembering all these little things in life, like having the updated insurance in the glove compartment. It happens. Steve in Overbrook, what's up, Steve? You're on KCMO.
Hey, good morning. First, man, every day listening to you guys, you know that. And first of all, dude, 15 over, 19 over, whatever it was, is that
14.
Is that really necessary?
14.
So with the fog this morning, obviously coming from Overbrook, I only have one highway I can go to work on. It's 56 highway. 2-lane, deer, semis, very dangerous. I have 4 cars pass me on a hill. I have one car that had I not hit my brakes, a little white Malibu would have literally within 400 feet, and I know it's what it is. I build fences, so I measure every day, and a semi. And then they go by me, 2 little kids in the back seat. So here is my public service announcement for the Kansas City Metro. If you know you have to be at work at 5, 6, 7 o'clock, get up 2 to 3 hours ahead of time. Drink a pot of coffee. Watch the news. See traffic. Watch the weather. Don't rely on your phone for everything. And if you pass me doing 75 and it's 60 and your phone is in your hand, I might just get in front of you and make you slow down. Irresponsibility in our society has come to a whole new level.
Yeah. Well, listen, I knew I was going too fast, and I think by the end of my conversation with the officer, he felt bad for me because I was being polite to him and respectful in the whole deal. I think he felt bad. But listen, I'm willing to take it because I was going, I guess, 14 miles over the speed limit.
Yeah, if you pay the court costs and double the fine, it never hits your driving record, by the way.
Is that right? Is that right?
Yeah, it's a money grab.
Yeah, well, I think you're right about that. What do I do? Just reach out to the court?
Yep, that's all you got to do. They'll offer you pay it double, pay the court fine, and it never hits your driver.
Do I need to hire an attorney for that?
No, you do not. In fact, it's funny you say that. I was on Facebook this morning, and there was a bunch of AI, like people marketing AI if you own a small business for advertising and marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing with AI, and I thought about this, so AI has the access to the internet.
Yeah.
Which means it has access to every piece of case law ever imagined, ever written, every Supreme Court case, every municipal court case, every state court case. How long until we no longer need attorneys and we can go there as individuals again, finally, and defend ourselves in the court of law because AI can do all the work for us?
That is what a great call, Steve. Nice job, buddy. I appreciate you. That is so true. So true. And the attorneys are mad at me anyway in Kansas City. I've been ragging on them lately, especially when I went on the rant last week about the trial attorneys getting away with figurative murder around here and driving up costs on insurance and literally everything. It does not get enough attention. So I had a couple of trial attorneys reach out to me last week and be like, oh, boy, you're really ragging on us this week. I'm like, you guys deserve it. You know it. Every other commercial on TV is one of you guys, personal injury guys. I know it's a different attorney, but still, I think the attorney industry is not thrilled with me right now in Kansas City. So if I've got to go with my tail between my legs to hire an attorney for this, I'm not going to be the most popular guy. I promise you that. Mark in Independence. What's up, Mark?
Hey, great call. Great show. I just called in real quick. I'm driving home from work. Yeah, to double the fine and do all that stuff, you can do it without a lawyer. It's called a diversion. You contact the prosecutor. However, in Kansas, they got a little caveat. If you're driving in a construction zone, they won't do it.
Yeah, it was not a construction zone. It was not.
All right. Yeah, that's good. And then the last thing I want to tell you, make you feel good about lawyers, is that about 15 years ago, I had a lawyer screw something up pretty badly for me and my dad. Fair amount of money. He wouldn't pay up. He owed us because he screwed the deal up about $250,000. And anyway, took me about 8 years, but I found a lawyer and I sued that other attorney and won.
Good for you. Good for you there, Mark. Stick it to the man, buddy. Nice job. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Mark in Overland Park. What's up, Mark?
Hey, Pete. Tone of the conversation's getting a little heated now with attorneys and everything. So I just want to pay a ticket for you. Like, how often is a guy from Overland Park going to be able to pay a ticket for a famous radio personality?
No. That's very. It's
such a nice man.
I mean, you're going into the holidays. You don't want this hanging over your head.
You know, Mark, I appreciate the offer. How about this? I'll tell you the price of the ticket, and you give it to your favorite charity.
How about you tell me the price of the ticket, and we put it in your daughter's college fund?
No. Please, give it to charity. Let's Harvesters, find a food bank that you like. Please, I'm insisting. It's a very generous offer. I'm grateful for the offer. But I want you to take the money and take your generosity and give it to maybe a faith organization. Find a great charity. We've got many of them. Maybe it's someone like the Battle Within here in Kansas City who we helped on Veterans Day. Take the money. It's a $135 ticket, $130, and give that to a great organization in Kansas City. Do we have a deal?
That's a deal. We'll do Harvesters, and I'll let my wife know later today this is coming out of her Christmas fund. It'll work out.
That's good there, Mark. That's good there, Mark. Happy Thanksgiving, my man.
You too.
Oh, that's great. Very nice of him. A nice gesture, but not necessary. I'm a big boy. I'll take care of this. I screwed up. And let's help people that really need it this time of year. We were talking about this with the girls last night at the dinner table, explaining that there are people going into Thanksgiving who literally don't have anything. And my oldest, she goes, so like people have to eat crackers on Thanksgiving? And then she goes, that actually sounds pretty good. I'm like, no, that's not the point. No. You're not supposed to be jealous of people that only eat crackers on Thanksgiving. But, try explaining that one to a 6-year-old who's like, crackers, that sounds pretty good. I'll eat Cheez-Its on Thanksgiving. No, honey, you want the big old turkey. Well, that's a nice gesture of Mark. And, I guess his wife may not like it when she finds out it's coming out of her Christmas fund, but, that's a loyal listener right there.
Hey, have you seen the price of crackers lately?
Coming up, Mark Alford is going to be here. I want to ask him about, first off, the final release of the Epstein files and the drama around that. but also a letter that he sent to President Trump lobbying to keep the World Cup in Kansas City after the president threw a threat out there about blue cities and how they could end up losing the World Cup ahead of next year. We'll get to Mark Alford on that next on KCMO Talk Radio.
Hey, it's Kevin Keatsman. Stick around. I'm coming up at 10 o'clock right after Pete Mundo on KCMO 95.7 FM.
Well, there you go. Bill O'Reilly on the Epstein files. Now we have Mark Alford, Missouri Congressman. Of course, 427-1 was the vote in the House, passes the Senate. President signs the bill. Congressman, it's always great to have you here. We appreciate the time as always. And let's just start with the Epstein files. I mean, I'm glad they're out, but do you really expect there to be some big whale that gets exposed in all this?
No. Good morning, Pete. Good to talk to you. No, I really don't think there's going to be any incriminating evidence against President Trump. Now, I think you're seeing some Democrat names being mentioned even more so, including Hakeem Jeffries, potential recipient of some donor money from Epstein. Look, we have said all along since the very beginning that we are for full transparency, but it has to be done the right way, protecting the victims. We don't want to re-victimize those women who went through this horrible ordeal. And so now within 30 days, the President Trump will continue to push, and now he's under mandate to do that by Congress, to have the Justice Department turn over all the files. Pam Bondi and Kash Patel have said repeatedly that most of them are out there. I don't know exactly what has not been turned over. James Comer of the Oversight Committee has been very studious about getting the information out there as soon as they have gone over it and make sure that there's no information that is a national security risk or releasing victims' names. So we'll see what happens. I think this is going to be a big nothing burger at the end of the day when it comes to those hating Donald J. Trump and wanting to see him fall. This is not the thing that's going to do it.
What's the reasoning then that you think the president was really steadfast against this release until Sunday when he really did a 180 on the issue?
Well, he called it a hoax. I think that's the wrong terminology. It is certainly a distraction. It has been a distraction now for 6 months. I don't know why the president fought against it. One thing, he doesn't like Tom Massey, okay? A little inside scoop for those who don't know. Tom Massey from Kentucky, he has gone against the president. He did in his last term. He did during a whole host of things that he just almost an obstinance against the president of the United States. But for whatever reason, Tom Massey puts forth this what's called a discharge petition, really forcing the House to do away with regular order, which we're trying to get back to, and putting this on the floor. And his bill actually had no mandated protections for the names of the victims. Trump did not want Massey to have a win in this, and I think that's why he put immense pressure on folks like Lauren Boebert and others to not sign the discharge petition. As a rule, I have said even before this, I do not sign discharge petitions. It puts the majority party, which is us, the Republicans, who have a narrow control of the House right now, in jeopardy in a lot of ways. And so while I was for the underlying legislation and voted for it this week, discharge petitions are not the way to go for me.
Mark Alford, Missouri Congressman, of course, is here on KCMO Talk Radio, 4th District, and his show, Mark Alford's Capital Recap, airs Saturdays at 1 p.m. and Sunday mornings at 8:30 right here on 95.7 FM KCMO. So yesterday, you sent a letter to President Trump basically saying that you want to make sure that FIFA does not move the World Cup from Kansas City after the president has said that he is basically keeping an eye on Democrat-run cities, and if they're not holding up their end of the bargain, he would consider moving World Cup matches out of these cities. Is there anything that leads you to believe Kansas City is at risk of losing these games, or was this proactive on your part?
This was more proactive on my part. We have a good relationship with the White House. In fact, I'm heading over there for lunch today. Hopefully going to meet Andrew Giuliani, who's the chair of the White House FIFA World Cup Task Force. I know he's been in close contact with our group there in Kansas City. But I just wanted the president to know that, look, while we do have high murder rate in Kansas City, and it is run by Democrats, let's face it, while they, pretend to be a nonpartisan position, we all know that Democrat progressives run Kansas City for the most part. And so I wanted to make sure that he knew the investment that we have, or not I personally, but those who fought for years to get the World Cup there. And I was on Fox 4 at the time, and we did a lot of, I guess, campaigning as much as we could do from a media standpoint to try to get the World Cup there, because it is a big economic boost and a point of pride, I think, for the entire region, including my district just south of Kansas City. So this letter is to urge the president to not take Kansas City off that list and to let the games go forward in Kansas City.
You know, from what I've heard from people who have talked to Andrew Giuliani, they say that Andrew's been actually very positive about how Kansas City has been preparing for this, not necessarily because of the politicians here locally, but because of, you know, the KC 2026 group, which is a lot of obviously successful private business people who have skin in the game and want to see this thing go well. Have you had those conversations with Andrew Giuliani, who's overseeing this World Cup for the president, or is that the conversation you hope to have today?
That's the one I hope to have today. Our White House liaison is trying to line up that meeting. I don't know if he's going to be there, but we'll see. If not, at least we'll talk by phone or maybe visit at another time. But I just want everyone to know the importance of keeping the World Cup in Kansas City, how important it is to us, how hard we have worked, the investments that have been made, and really how detrimental I think it would be to our, the region if it were pulled out from under us.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm glad you're doing it, and I'm hopeful that lunch goes well today with yourself and the president and everybody else involved. So, Mark Alford, we appreciate your time as always, and thanks for being here on KCMO.
Thank you, Pete.
There you go.
Take care.
You as well. That is Mark Alford on 95.7 FM. We're streaming all morning long at KCMOTalkRadio.com, or just look at your Google Home, look at your Alexa, and tell it to play KCMO Talk Radio. It'll pull us right up, and you'll be listening from the home office. Well, I appreciate the proactive nature of Mark Alford there. I do think we're in a good spot based on what I've heard from people who have spoken with Andrew Giuliani, who is overseeing the World Cup for the president. So I'm not worried right now, but I'm also grateful Mark Alford is being proactive about it. We'll ask Quinton Lucas about this, much more, his trip to Springfield. What is he doing down there? And a lot more to get into with Mayor Lucas next.
from Smithville to Shawnee Mission. You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
To me, the most intriguing part of the week for Mayor Quinton Lucas, who now joins us on KCMO, is what he's doing outside the city of Kansas City, Missouri. But there's obviously a lot happening inside the city of Kansas City, Missouri. We'll get to all that more with the mayor, who now joins us on KCMO. I want to start down in Greene County, where you spent some time this week, Mr. Mayor. As people speculate on your next move, why spend some time down in Greene County this week?
I love Missouri. I think we have lots of commonalities around all of our different communities, large and small. Frankly, I think the viewpoints that I have are shared by a lot of people around our state who want stronger public schools, and I've been in a lot of them around this region and certainly in Southwest Missouri in recent days. I think we have commonality in wanting to build stronger economy for the future of our state. So I think that both in terms of how, as we look to another legislative session, and certainly as we look to build out our future, that Kansas City should look to Southwest Missouri and all types of parts of our state and this part of the Midwest to see how we can get things done better.
Okay, so this was not about maybe getting your name out there in other parts of Missouri where it may not be as well known?
Look, I want your show to spread far and wide throughout all of Missouri so everybody can get to know who I am. I think that it's less about my name and more about some of the principles and the values that we have here, which is common sense government. I think effective local government, far more effective than what we see on the state and federal level, and supporting people who do those sorts of things. But no, I'm not going around on campaign trips necessarily as much as I'm trying to learn, listen, and certainly get a chance to visit with people all around Missouri.
So I saw you had a highly publicized trip yesterday to the Independent School District, and part of that was because you were you were vocal about being a no vote on Independence's 4-day school week, and obviously it passed overwhelmingly. So after what you saw yesterday, do you regret being against the 4-day school week in Independence?
Oh, heavens, no. No, I don't think that at all. And I think, what we saw yesterday was frankly a better form of what education should be. As soon as I had something to say about it, the superintendent of schools, the current superintendent of schools, fairly quietly reached out and said, we'd love to just show you what we're all about. I think there are a lot of people, perhaps yourself included, I don't know if your kids are public school age yet or not, but who may well send your kids to 5-day schools, as indeed most of us in this region likely do. And so I think that there is this idea of how can we better understand 4-day schools. I think a number of the things that I shared then are still things that I learned a lot more about yesterday, one of which is what is the engagement with our young people on the 5th day? What are the other programmatic efforts that they're growing and learning in? And frankly, I think what Independence is building out well, and I got to see this, is something that I'm not sure every district would successfully stick the landing on, which is how you make sure it isn't just kids sitting at home on a 5th day, which turns out to actually be a 1st day, Monday, watching TV or doing whatever kids are doing now for entertainment without actually getting that amount of engagement and encouragement. So I have no regrets at all about caring about education in this region. I think one of the biggest mistakes that this region has ever made was when during the Kansas City, Missouri DSEG era, not just people in the Kansas City School District, but all around the region, and there are lawsuits that are evidence of that, said we don't really care what happens. Right? We went through decades of underinvestment, of a declining school district, one that was stripped of accreditation, and we've seen hard work to build it all back. I think we should care more about every public school district, and I think every district that is within Kansas City boundaries, which includes Independence, by the way, and every school district that we touch, I will continue to opine on in the same way that, heck, I visited a school district in Springfield, Missouri on Friday. I think schools matter a ton. I think public education matters a ton. That's why I'm there for it, and I think, by the way, that, I'm here to share my opinions no matter what it is, whether you're asking me about Dodge City, downtown, or anywhere else.
Well, and to be clear, maybe my question was not as clear. I wasn't asking if you were regretting opining on the issue, but more so if you regretted the opinion of the 4-day week being a good thing or a bad thing.
For the take, I got you. And I think what I would say is this: I learned a lot yesterday. I think I think the district laid out for me a pathway where it works very well with them, for them.
Yeah.
And if you can build it out that way, I think that's good. To a bigger question, and one that likely got me to the broader point I made to opine, is this something that everyone should look to do tomorrow? I'm not there. And I think that it is something that everybody should think a lot more about. And by the way, this is the sort of thing that may not get a lot of radio time on your show, but it's a trend in education that we're seeing in Missouri and Kansas, mainly starting in rural districts, right? Independence is the largest place that's done it, and I think it probably will be an ongoing conversation. So I expect a few more vociferous discussions on it, but I've got to give a shout-out to the superintendent and the others who said, let's have a real conversation. I appreciate that. And frankly, it's what we need more of in America.
Mayor Quinton Lucas is here on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. So let me ask you about Mark Alford sends a letter to President Trump yesterday saying, hey, keep the World Cup in Kansas City. Now, what are you laughing at?
Man, look, Pete, can we just talk person to person with a few thousand, maybe even more listening to us right now? The president typically, when he talks about the World Cup, is not talking about Kansas City. You know this. I know this. The president is talking about larger cities in America that are usually at top of mind for him and having some connection and relationship with issues in, be it New York, issues in Chicago, which doesn't even have the World Cup. He's brought up Portland, which also doesn't have the World Cup, and lots of other spaces. There is no one who's listening to these comments from the White House sometimes and saying, I think realistically, man, the president woke up this morning, read the Kansas City Star, and is alarmed by X or Y thing, particularly, by the way, at a time, and I knock the Republican-appointed police board sometimes. Here's where I give them credit, which I serve too, right, and frankly the city of Kansas City for funding these things, when crime is down in almost every major category in Kansas City, Missouri. It's not saying that we're resting on our laurels, but frankly, I don't think these issues are about Kansas City. So I think Congressman Alford, and by the way, I'm friendly with Congressman Alford, by the way, and something that people may not know, and he's got an exceptionally delightful wife. I don't think this is something that is necessary right now. I think it's a little bit of, political theater. And, but hey, I guess it doesn't hurt. And he gets invited to this White House. I don't. It was flipped the other way before. So I guess if somebody's saying good things about Kansas City, the better. I would just kind of let sleeping dogs lie, let the president talk about other cities and not even bring Kansas City into it, which is primarily, if you've noticed on this issue, what I do.
Mayor Lucas is here on KCMO. And I, just so you know, and I've said this morning, I've heard that Andrew Giuliani, who's now overseeing this World Cup for the president and his team, has been actually very positive about how Kansas City is doing compared to some of the other cities. So I know you may not have that direct line to Andrew Giuliani, but I'm telling you, I'm hearing good things. And I guess that's something the city can obviously sleep well at night thinking and knowing.
Well, you may know this. Andrew Giuliani and I are kind of close in age, and the interesting world and the way the world works, we have some mutual connections out there. And so, I think I have at least heard indications of the same. I have not been able to meet him, but here's what Kansas City is doing, and you all may wonder sometimes. I think, frankly, that the White House and Congress have been very supportive of the FIFA World Cup, which means that they've been supportive of Kansas City in many ways. That's why we give a wide berth. You can't, in modern American politics, try to have a rejoinder for every single point the President of the United States makes. Sometimes he's commenting on issues far different than yours, and other times it's just not really relevant or germane to your community. I get politicians who may want to try to fill the space and make sure their voice is heard in connection with it. I'm not one of those, believe it or not, on this issue. I'd rather talk about public schools in Missouri and how we can support them. And, I think that's the way we should continue to go, because I think KC 2026, that effort has been incredibly well run, and we're not going to jeopardize it by engaging in the politics, whether we think it's helpful or not.
Well, I will say, though, you might be able to get yourself to the White House on Friday. Since you're a Memdani guy, as you said on the show a couple of weeks back, he's going to the White House on Friday, so you can try to, hook yourself up with your buddy there in New York and maybe get an invite.
Talk about it, right? I try to be nice and all that sort of stuff, never get there. Mamdani can protest, do everything else. He's there like before he's sworn in, but that's all right. But look, and here's the thing.
New York bias. It's New York bias.
Yes, total New York bias. We make comparisons to Kansas City, and I tell people when President Trump is talking about American cities, he's thinking about the American city he grew up in and others where he's invested in. He may not be thinking about our city. And as this point goes, I don't actually take that as a knock. I'd rather have us doing good things, working across the aisle, building a strong future, instead of being a bunch of famous people that get to meet and talk about things and be on the cover of the New York Post, which I hope to never be in my life.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I would not want that for you either. All right, let me ask you this. Crispin Rea, member of the city council, has an idea with these sideshows, ATVs, dirt bikes flying all over the city, he wants to potentially not just take them away, but also destroy the vehicle. That feels like a slippery slope when you have the government potentially destroying private property. Is that something that you're a fan of?
You know, I've seen actually another mayor I know, Mayor Eric Adams of New York City, I think kind of famously did that, went to some landfill or something on Staten Island, and they crushed a bunch of vehicles. Look, it's of the things that worry me or not, I'd rather us actually apprehend the suspects, seize the vehicles. What happens after that seizure, I don't really care that much, although I would note that the seizure itself has to go through a lot of different legal steps. I'm not sure. And this is a proposal really to put it in a proposal in the Missouri legislature. It'll be a few steps, but I'll probably spend more of my lobbying time in the Missouri legislature in getting money for public schools and health care and Kansas City infrastructure rather than the vehicle destruction type idea. I do appreciate the councilman's seriousness with street racing, but somebody who was at a board of police commissioners meeting on Tuesday, I think that giving ourselves more officers out in the field to apprehend in these situations, to intervene in these, is going to be key step one to making sure they're not tearing up Waldo or wherever in Kansas City.
Mm-hmm. All right. Mr. Mayor, thank you as always for the time. We'll let you have a great Thanksgiving next Thursday. Hope it's a good one, and we'll catch you in a couple of weeks.
2 must-wins for the Chiefs over the next 2 weeks, and then hopefully we're back in the playoff hunt after that. So
I assume you'll be out there on Sunday for the big Colts game, trying to save the season.
I will be there for the Colts game, and in case you're wondering, because people love to get on my travel, I will not be there for the Dallas game, even if I thought about it. My wife was like, you're going to be here eating turkey with my in-laws. So I'll be here.
All right, there you go. All right, we've got him on the record. He will not be in Dallas next week. You won't see him flying down 35 on Thursday morning. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Have a great Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
All right, Quinton Lucas on KCMO Talk Radio. There you go. He's on the record. Not going down to Dallas. All right. It's okay. I didn't know how he'd answer the ATV thing, but I agree with him on that. I mean, that's what I said when the idea came out. You cannot have a city government taking private property and then destroying private property because the law was broken by somebody who was using that dirt bike, that 4x4, that ATV. You can't. That is a dangerous road to go down. And exactly what I said the other day when the idea came out from Councilman Rea, who wants to be the mayor himself, was how about you just get enough cops on the streets to deter this stuff and arrest the people and deal with them and not worry about when you're going to be destroying dirt bikes to, prove some point. That's a dumb idea. And I didn't know if the mayor was going to be on board with that or not, but I'm glad that he is, I guess. So that hopefully is going nowhere fast. I mean, I can appreciate some outside-the-box thinking, but that one to me didn't make any sense.
Mr. Mundo, you were going, 59 here in a 40.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to confiscate your vehicle.
Well, that's what I mean. That's where it goes. And by the way, John,
walking to work, sir.
Just for the record, I was going 59 in a 45, which sounds a lot better.
Technically.
Technically. Yeah, I got my ticket.
The original citation, of course.
Yes, I got my ticket this morning at about 5 o'clock, and still licking my wounds. I wasn't in Kansas City, Missouri. If it was, I'd ask the mayor to help me out with this thing, but,
So luckily they didn't confiscate your vehicle.
Yeah, they did not. They did not. All right, coming up, we have new jobs numbers that just came out. A late jobs report. What does it signal for the economy? We'll tell you next.
On Thursday's Guy Benson Show, a busy one, Jason Chaffetz, our colleague, will join us, as will Josh Krassauer, coming up at 2 o'clock on 95.7 KCMO.
All right, so it's a mixed bag. September jobs report has come in, obviously delayed because of the government shutdown. You guys want the good news first or the not so good news first? You tell me.
Let's go not so good
Not
first.
so good news.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't think you were going there, but I'm fine with that. The not so good news. Unemployment rate has edged up a hair to 4.4%. Expectations for the unemployment number was 4.3%. This is the highest unemployment rate since October of 2021. The good news, payrolls increased by 119,000 in the month, which blew out the expectations for 50,000. More than doubled that number. Now, of course, these things often get revised over time, but an example, July was revised down to 72,000 new jobs, but only down 7,000 from the prior release, not tens of thousands of jobs. So there's good news and there's maybe not as good news. Now, I would look at the not so good news and say, well, the unemployment rate's up. Two reasons for that, I believe. People who are out of the labor force are having a harder time finding that new job. But also remember this, as more people get into the workforce and are looking for jobs, they count against the unemployment rate. If you have not been looking for a job for several months, then you fall out of the unemployment rate number. You're no longer considered part of the unemployment percentage because you're not looking for a job. So it could also be that you have more people looking for work, which is a good thing. And a big reason that maybe the jobs numbers have not been as frothy as other years, well, remember, and we talked a lot about this during the last administration, it was not to be hyper-partisan, it was a fact. One of the big gainers in the jobs market was the government. The government was hiring at record rates over the last few years. Now, so far this year, the federal government has lost 97,000 jobs on the calendar year as they try to basically cut some of the fat from the government, which has to happen. It's a no-brainer. And you want to see the private sector boom. Here's what it sounded like this morning. Rick Santelli on CNBC, here's what he had to say.
Here we go. This is the September jobs report. Non-farm payrolls are up a robust 119,000. 119,000 will be the best since April when we were up 158,000. In the rearview mirror, well, last month was downgraded from 22,000 to minus 4,000.
All right, so that was Rick Santelli on CNBC. Now, they are not going to have an October jobs report, and that has the conspiracy theorists running wild this morning. Do I want an October jobs number? Sure, I think they should figure out a way to get one. But there are two ways the conversation is going this morning. The White House is obviously looking at the optimistic side of this report, which is that the new hires blew out the expectations despite unemployment being up a tick. But on the other side, what you've got going on here is a lot of, oh, he's canceled the October jobs report, the golden age. I thought we were the hottest country in the, oh my, what's the cover up here? Release the files, release the jobs numbers, Epstein, Pedo Island. I mean, it's all the same stuff. They've just kind of cobbled it into one talking point, I guess you would say. And, I think not having an October jobs number is not ideal, but do I think they should figure out a way to get one? I do. I readily admit I do. But at the same time, if you get one in November, a month later, like if the economy is really struggling, and what I think is going on is there's just uncertainty right now. That's the main thing that's happening. It's general uncertainty and people kind of keeping that powder dry. Then you'll know in the November report. I mean, the notion that they're rigging the jobs numbers or something like that to try to maintain the golden age, you can have a decent jobs number and you can have a decent economy when it comes to jobs, but still admit there are affordability issues that still exist out there. Both those things can be true. And I'll say this too, looking at the markets, the futures are up big time. Stocks are rallying. Dow futures now up 400 points. Market's set to open up in 30 minutes. You've got the NASDAQ up 2%, 500 points. And a big reason for that is NVIDIA had a strong number yesterday. They popped 5% in pre-market trading after a stronger than expected earnings number that came out yesterday. So those are the big drivers there. 913-408-7957 is how you join us on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM. We've got those Parker McCollum tickets coming up in 15 minutes. Mike Thompson will be here in 20 minutes. And Ask Mundo Anything at the end of next hour on KCMO.
They don't want you to know the real numbers, Pete. They deported too many workers.
That's right, John. You got it. News next.